Hey guys, Roger here, pastor of Preaching and Vision at Matthew's Table. We're glad that you decided to join us and tune in to see our service. I would say that this isn't something that we hope you replace your local church with, but this is something to just build on that and encourage you and help you see Jesus in a bigger, better way.
I'm Pastor Nick Martin, pastor of Discipleship and Outreach, and we pray this just blesses you and grows you in your relationship with Christ.
For everyone who they have on their heart right at this moment, God. Call them home in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.
Check. Good evening. My name's Joe Welsh. I'm the director at Friends of Sinners and a member here at Matthew's Table. I fill in for Roger whenever he needs somebody, but I spent the last 2 days working on this lesson for tonight, and I couldn't find anybody to give a testimony. So when I was asking people today, everybody kept saying you should just do the testimony. So I asked Roger if I could do the testimony too, and he said just do your testimony, shorten your lesson, and do your testimony. I can't really, so I'm just gonna do my testimony tonight and do things a little bit different because I feel like that's what God wants me to do. If I have time at the end, which I won't, I will do some of the lesson, but I'm 41 years old. Oh, you're fine. I grew up here in Davis County. My childhood wasn't horrible or compared to a lot of kids, but some of my earliest memories are about the age of 5. When I was real little, like we owned a home and my mom and dad were together. My dad worked, my mom stayed home. Things were good, and about the time I got to kindergarten or started school, things started changing. My dad started drinking a lot. I think when my mom gives her testimony, she says they were weekend warriors for a long time. So I think on the weekends they drank and partied and used drugs, and then on the week, throughout the week, everything was good. I didn't really know any of that stuff. I was too young, but my dad started, I guess things got out of control for my dad like they do. And my dad started not coming home, and it would be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. He would be at the bar every day drinking. And I remember growing up, I guess they were members at the Eagles Club over on 9th Street. I remember just kind of growing up in the pool hall or the bar, just kind of growing up around a lot of drinking and a lot of partying. When I was in first grade, I think, I'm not sure exactly, but when I was in first grade, my things kind of changed for us. So my dad had gotten another lady pregnant in Ohio, and my mom and dad got a divorce. So things changed. I remember my dad kind of talking to me and telling me he wasn't going to be around anymore and having that conversation. But things changed, and some of the things that changed is basically my mom, me and my sister became poor pretty much overnight. So she had to get on welfare and food stamps and Section 8 and all those things to take care of us. So some of my memories that it affected me and still affects me to this day is like I had really low self-esteem, and I just had this spirit of fear that's kind of been with me my whole life, or this anxiety that's been with me, and some of those things come from, I remember one of my earliest memories is my dad being gone to the bar or wherever he was, and my mom just kind of waiting up for him, and he would come home and they would get in a fight. I don't remember like seeing my dad like just whoop my mom or anything like that, but it was really loud and sometimes it was physical. So I remember, I don't know when it happened, but I remember I put 2 and 2 together. So I remembered if I'm there, if I walk in on him, my dad will stop. So from that day forward, anytime my dad wasn't home and my mom was waiting up for him or trying to find him, I remember like driving to every bar in Owensboro looking for him. And we couldn't find him. So I would just stay up. I would lay in my bed, and me and my sister shared a room. I would lay in my bed and watch for the headlights to come in the driveway. And when they did, I would wait for their bedroom door to close, and then I would go sit outside their bedroom door and listen, thinking if they get in a fight, I can walk in and my dad will stop. So some of the other memories I have are just being poor, being on food stamps. I was really embarrassed of being on food stamps, so we lived by this gas station. It was literally like 10 houses down, there's a gas station. Well, I would walk 2 miles down the road to a different gas station where they didn't know me to use food stamps because I didn't want anybody to know I was on food stamps. I remember cashing them in. This is when they had real food stamps, so I could go to the pool or buy something else. Yeah, real food stamps. I buy a piece of candy and cash it in and do that over and over to get the change. Well, I remember just if somebody got in line behind me, I would act like a nice guy and I would just get out of line. I'd say, man, I forgot something, and just really embarrassed and ashamed. What else was I going to tell you? I was going to tell you something else. I can't remember now. But anyways, oh yeah, I was on free lunch. And free lunch at school was terrifying to me. So I always ate lunch last because I didn't want anybody in my class to hear me say free lunch. And even when I got older, I was still on free lunch. I'm really glad they got this new rule where all the kids have free lunch now because it's awesome for kids. But I would just stay at the back of the line. And when I got older, even when I had free lunch, I would pay for it. Like, that's how embarrassed I could have got free lunch, but instead I would pay for it. If I had enough money to pay for it, that's what I would do. So I was just really ashamed, full of fear and anxiety, to the point to where when I was a kid, I started getting migraines and throwing up and just physically sick. And the doctor said it was from anxiety and stress. I learned really quick that nobody cares about who your mom or your dad is or what kind of shoes you wear or what your life is like at home if you're good at sports. So I set out to be the best person, the best athlete in baseball and football and basketball that I could be because it made people like me. People liked me if I was good at sports. And the other thing that sports did for me, sports was my first love because I remember being so addicted to playing sports. I would go to the parks and I would shovel snow off the basketball court just so I could play. And the reason is I love playing basketball or baseball or whatever, but it was the only time, the 2 hours I was playing basketball was the only time that I had any peace or any contentment. It was the only time that all the problems, where my dad was, where my mom was, what my life is like, I didn't have to worry about those things. So I just threw myself into sports. I did good in school. I didn't get in trouble a lot. I was respectful to my parents, to anybody. 'Cause I'm so full of fear and anxious. And still to this day, I avoid confrontation at all costs. Like, even in my marriage, like to this day, my wife could do anything. And instead of me speaking up and saying something, like, I will not say anything just to avoid a confrontation. And it causes me problems to this day, like where I should speak up, or I should say how I feel, or I should voice my opinion, but I don't because I want to avoid confrontation at all costs. When I was in 5th grade, I went to 7 different elementary schools, I think. We moved every year, or every 6 months. My mom would get behind on the rent or something, we'd have to move. So I went to all these different elementary schools, and I fit in everywhere, and I made friends everywhere. Well, eventually I got tired of moving around, and I ended up going to Cravens Elementary School in 5th grade, and I got a group of friends, and my mom was getting remarried, and she was moving to Ohio County, and I didn't want to go. I was tired of moving, and I didn't want to leave my friends behind. Because for the first time in my life, I felt accepted and a part of something and loved. So basically, throughout my childhood, I would stay with my grandparents over the summer. My mom would take me there, and I would just stay there for weeks. And I don't really know. I didn't care why I was there because my grandparents was at my grandparents'. It was kind of like sports for me. It was the only place that there wasn't chaos or craziness, and it was just a safe place for me to be away from all that stuff. So I told my mom I wanted to move in with my grandparents, and I knew they would let me move in with them, and I knew my mom would let me because I'd already stayed there so much. So I moved in with my grandparents, and they gave me a good home, and they taught me right from wrong, and they bought me new clothes. They took care of me. I had chores. I tell people that I would never disobey my grandfather, and I didn't ever want to disappoint my grandmother. So I did well through like middle school and high school. I made good grades. I didn't get in trouble, but around my sophomore year of high school, I made a decision that I regret still to this day, which was quitting sports. And the reason I quit sports was because my grandparents couldn't buy me a car or couldn't give me money, and I wanted to have my own car when I was 16, so I had to go to work and get a job to do that. And the reason I needed a car was because my grandparents, they had a curfew. So I'm like 17 years old, and I got a 10 o'clock curfew in high school, and I'm like, this ain't working. My friends ain't leaving the party after the football game to bring me home at 10 o'clock. So I decided I was going to quit sports, get my own car so that I could go be a part of all the stuff you do in high school. And when I was 16, I tried marijuana for the first time. I faked it until I made it, right? My friend rolled a joint and said, let's smoke this, and I put it to my mouth and acted like I was smoking it, and then afterwards I acted all goofy like he did and didn't really do it because I was scared. I was scared to try drugs. I said, I'll never do drugs and I'll never drink alcohol because I don't want to be like my dad. I don't want my life to look like what that looks like. So I didn't drink alcohol until I was out of high school, until I was like 19 years old. I was the responsible friend that wanted to be at every party and wanted to be a part of all this stuff, but I didn't want to do it because I was scared. So I would just act like a good guy and drive everybody to the parties, and I worked 2 jobs and had my own car and basically paid for my own stuff. I got a full scholarship to college, and this is the second. Before drugs and alcohol were ever a problem, I made another bad decision. I had a full scholarship to college right after my high school year, and the day that I was supposed to leave, my grandmother packed all my stuff, and there's 2 suitcases sitting in the kitchen, and I come home and I tell her I can't go. And the reason I can't go is because I'm scared to death to go 3 hours away to college. I was full of fear and anxiety. Not only that, but I didn't want to leave my friends or this reputation or this family of friends that I had created, even if it was I go to work every day and go to the pool hall and smoke weed and not do anything except hang out. I was scared to death to leave that and have to go make new friends. I didn't know how to make new friends or talk to people or socialize with people. So I didn't go to college. I just threw away a college scholarship education, and I started going to community college and working full-time. I got a full-time job at a tire store here in town. And about this time, I made another decision that affected my life, which was I got tired of following my grandparents' rules. I'm like an adult. I'm like 19 years old. And my grandpa locks the door at 12, and you don't get in if you ain't there by 12. So I basically manipulated my grandparents, the situation. I said my mom had got divorced again and moved back to Owensboro, and I said I really want to have a relationship with my mom and move in with my mom. But the truth was that I wanted to not have rules. I knew if I went to my mom's, I could do whatever I wanted and we could party together, and that's what we did for a few years. I'm trying to think if I'm forgetting anything. Yeah. So I moved back in with my mom. We used drugs together. Like, I got drugs from my mom. She got drugs from me. My dad, he was in and out of jail or prison most of my childhood. And it ended up, though, my dad got out of jail, and now me and my mom and my dad and my sister were all just partying together, and we're just one big happy family doing what we want to do. And that didn't turn out well. While I was working at this tire store, and during this time of my life, from like 19 to 21, I started experimenting with drugs and drinking. And I didn't really like drinking, but I had this fear and this anxiety, right? And what I found out was if I take a little pill, it makes it go away. If I take this little pill, I can talk to girls. If I take this little pill, it makes me social. If I take this little pill, I don't feel like just this uneasy, unrest feeling that I feel in my normal state. So I started trying Xanax and those things, and that's kind of was my drug of choice for a while, and marijuana. But while I was working at this tire store, I hurt my back one day. And when I say I hurt my back, I don't think it was like a bad back accident. I just had like this little ache in my back. This guy that I was working with that worked right beside me, he said, take this and your back will feel better. So I took this little pill, and it was a Lortab, and instantly I felt better. And what I found out was that Lortabs or anything that I ever take gave me energy and made me better at what I was doing. So I found out that if I take this pill, I can stay up all night and party and get up at 6 o'clock and be the best tire changer in Owensboro, right? I could change tires better than anybody as long as I got this little pill. So before I knew it, it was literally like overnight. It was probably within 3 months. I was taking pain pills every day, and I was addicted to pain pills and didn't even know it. I got married, bought my own house, had a good job, a wife, owned my own home, had everything that I ever wanted, and but I had this drug problem that nobody knew about really. At some point during this time, my mom had got sober, and my mom had found Jesus. My dad hadn't, but my mom was doing a lot better. I remember my ex-wife finding pill bottles full of pills just hid all over my house, and confronting me about these pills, and me just kind of still at the point in my journey that I wouldn't admit I had a problem because of pride and just wouldn't admit it. So I remember coming home one day and they were there. They had this intervention for me, right? My mom, my ex-wife, my grandparents, my pastor, maybe my sister. I don't remember who all was there, but I walk in and they have an intervention and everybody cries and they beg me to stop, and I tell them I'm going to stop. And in that moment, when I said it, I meant it. I really wanted to stop, but I couldn't. And so before they ever got home, I was already taking pills again. It was that bad. And I went to detox in the hospital for the first time. I spent 3 days in the hospital just going through withdrawals. I remember the day that I was being discharged. I remember using, like, I don't even think I had cell phone yet, but I remember calling the drug dealer from the hospital. I'm signing my papers to get released, and from this 3 days of misery in the hospital and going straight to get some pills, my ex-wife finally gave me an ultimatum to get help or she was going to divorce me. And I promise you, I didn't even consider it. I didn't think about it for 1 second. Like there was zero chance at this point that I was going to admit I had a problem. So I basically said, divorce me. I went in the house and got the things that I could sell or pawn. I took my vehicle and the computer and the TV and my stuff, anything that I could sell, and basically left everything else to her. And if you got that, don't do that, because I mean, not that I needed the house, but like 7 or 8 years later, after I got sober, I found out that my name's still on the mortgage of the house, so I'm trying to get a loan to buy a new house, and my name's on the mortgage of my ex-wife's house. Yeah, so that's a bad idea. I end up moving in with a friend for a few months, and because of now I don't have an ex-wife to answer to, I'm just on my own, and things got really bad really fast. I lost my job, couldn't go to work, couldn't keep a job, lost everything that I ever owned, basically had 2 bags. Are they here for us, or? Let's see what's going on. Yeah, so I ended up on my mom's front porch with 2 bags of clothes in my vehicle, saying I need a place to live. My mom took me in, and for a few years my mom put up with my craziness. And I remember my mom coming home from church like dancing and singing about Jesus and just being what I thought was crazy. But in 2007, I went to treatment for the first time on my own. Are they here? We're good. All right. Y'all can pay attention again. They're not here for y'all. I went to treatment for the first time. I had a bunch of friends that were, I'd started going to AA meetings just before I ever got divorced. I started going to AA meetings to satisfy my ex-wife, and I would go to AA meetings high, and I never, it just didn't work. But I knew who I could call to ask for help. So on the 4th of July, 2007, one of my best friends drove me 5 hours away to Moorhead, Kentucky, and dropped me off at a treatment center. Listen, the first day, I literally walk in this place, and when they say you're in bed 2, you're in 2 up, you're on the top of bed 2, and I go over there, and the guy that's below me on 2 down, the first thing he says to me is, "What do you like? What do you like?" And I knew what that meant. And the first day I'm there, I had drugs, right? I didn't have no money, so after the first time, they wasn't gonna give me drugs every day for free. So after the first time, it cost money. I didn't have no money, so I couldn't get high every day. But periodically, while I was in treatment, I would get high. The crazy thing about, I remember being there, and I had to walk to class at this church and try and get sober, and I would find drugs in the parking lot. Like, it was just like it was set up for me to fail. But one of the crazy things, I remember calling home. I didn't call my mom. My mom wouldn't come to get me, but I called Papa and told Papa that these guys was shooting up in my room, which they were. I knew he would come get me. Huh? And there was bears? I don't remember that. Oh, there was bears where I was walking? I don't remember that. But he came and got me. I gave everything I had, all the clothes I had. I remember I gave all my clothes away. Only thing I took was just one bag that I could sneak out with. And I gave all of my other stuff away to people that were in this place because I wasn't going to tell them I was leaving. I didn't want anybody to stop me. It was embarrassing. I remember being on my way home and telling my mom and my grandparents how much that place helped me and how much I had changed. And I'd probably, like, out of 60 days, I was probably sober 50 of those days. But I really believed it in my head. Somehow, some way, like, I thought I was going to come home and stay sober, and it lasted a day, and I was back to using again. So finally, after I wrecked a van into my mom's work and a bunch of other stuff, my mom kicked me out, and I ended up getting arrested and getting in trouble really for the first time in my life. I had never gotten in trouble or been to jail. A lot of close calls, but never really been to jail. So I got 2 trafficking charges, and I ended up in jail. My mama bailed me out, and I went back to my mom's, but I was on house arrest, right? And while I was on house arrest, I could go to work or church. So I went to church with my mom. On a Wednesday night, I went to church with my mom, and my mom had taken this or invited this homeless guy to come to church with us or meet us there or something. I remember being in church just like this and just really for the first time crying out to God in my head, not verbally, but in my head, just saying, God, I can't stay sober. I can't do this. I can't do it. You have to help me. And just going through this stuff in my head, just pleading with God to help me. But I was too scared to get up and come to the altar. It was like an altar call. I remember begging God to help me, but I can't go up there because I'm so scared people are going to see me or what are they going to think. And this homeless guy sitting beside me, and it's the first time that God had really, the first time that I remember God ever speaking to me. And this homeless guy was sitting next to me, and he leaned over and whispered in my ear. He said, I really want to go up there, but I'm so scared. I'm too scared to get up and go up there. And when he said it, I knew God was speaking to me, so I got up and went to the altar and just begged God to help me stay sober. It was a pretty simple prayer. It was, I can't do it, help me. Like, that's all it was, but it was sincere. And I left there, and I kept getting high, but a few weeks later, I got put back in jail for failing a lot of drug tests. Interesting story is while I was in jail, my mom was friends with Cam Eichert, and Cam Eichert is one of the guys that helped Roger open Friends of Sinners. And so my mom sent Roger and Cam to the Davis County Detention Center to interview me for a bid. It was 2009. They had just opened. They had only had like 2 or 3 clients at this point, but they came out there and they interviewed me. I barely remember the interview, but I do remember them being there. I don't know what I said or how I answered their questions, but basically what Cam said was they left there and Roger said I wasn't ready. And he was probably right? But he said I wasn't ready, so I end up getting released to Owensboro Regional Recovery on March the 12th, 2010. while I was in jail, I prayed for God to send me to the lighthouse. I was set in jail, and I would pray, God, send me to the lighthouse. God, send me to the lighthouse. Because while I was in jail, all the people in jail, that know everything, that know what's best, they said, if you go to the lighthouse, you can get high, right? So I'm begging God to send me to the lighthouse. And when I pulled in the driveway at Owensboro Regional Recovery, on the front of the sign, it says Lighthouse Recovery Services. And I felt God speaking to me again. And I went there, I walked in the doors, and I promise you, I didn't know if it would work. I didn't know if I could do it. I didn't know if I even wanted to be sober, but I was court ordered, and I got to get out of this trouble because I don't want to be in jail no more, right? So I went in there, and for the first 3 months, I didn't do anything right except not get kicked out, not leave, and not get high. So for 3 months, all I did right was not get kicked out, not leave, not get high. And I was one of the first people at ORR because it was brand new. I was like the 20th person to check in the building, but these 20 guys that were before me, they were treatment professionals, and they were veteran prison inmates, right? And they were so good, they knew how to play treatment so well that they had me completely convinced that they were serious about getting sober. And because I was convinced that they were serious about getting sober, it gave me the courage to try to get sober. It gave me the courage to do something different and give this a shot. So I can't tell you where in my time in treatment something happened, but during that 6 months I was there, something happened. And one of the things that happened was treatment or sobriety or this new way of life became attractive to me. I saw all kinds of people just like me that I thought were cool or that they had something I wanted, and treatment became attractive to me. So I completed treatment, and I was ordered to ORR by drug court. I did 15 months in Owensboro Regional Recovery, and I did 29 months in Davis County Drug Court. I celebrated my first year of my 1 year anniversary of sobriety on Emmaus Walk 101, and my life changed again there. All I can tell you about that weekend, because I'm not supposed to share a lot about the weekend. If you haven't experienced it, I would encourage you to do it. But it was a Saturday night. It was March the 10th, 2011, and I had 1 year of sobriety, and they had an altar call, and they had some other stuff go on that just kind of, the best way, listen, I cried for like 30 minutes straight, like I've never cried before, and it was like God reached in my chest and pulled my heart out and gave me a new one. And when I left there, everything was different. It wasn't anything I did or anything I accomplished or anything I earned. When I left that weekend, I saw the world different. I heard the world different. The things I was attracted to were different. I wasn't attracted to drugs or sin or homeboy over there anymore. I was attracted to this pastor or this husband or this father, men of God and things of God is what I was attracted to. So one thing that happened while I was there was I learned how to pray. I was on Emmaus Walk. I had 1 year sober, and they make you go around in a circle and hold this cross and pray. And I hyperventilated while I was praying because I've been sitting at this table with these people for three days straight, but I can't interact with people. I'm just completely overran with anxiety and fear that I can't even pray. Well, I learned how to pray, and I was working on this farm out in the country, and my job was to pick up sticks and throw them on this trailer behind this tractor all day long. It was like a forest that they had tore down to make into cropland. I forget what they called it, but pick up sticks out of the dirt all day long, throw them rocks and big sticks. Well, during this time, it was 10 hours a day. I prayed to God, God, give me purpose. God, give me purpose. God, I know there's more to life than this. God, I know there's more to this than being sober. Give me purpose. So a few weeks of that, and I got offered a job at Owensboro Regional Recovery, and I started working in treatment, in the treatment field. I worked there for about a year, and I think my life was better, and I applied for this job at St. Benedict's homeless shelter, and I went and interviewed for it, and I didn't get it. And I was still working at ORR. It wasn't a big deal. I interviewed for a higher position at ORR, and I didn't get it. At the same time, this guy that had been at ORR way less time than I had got the job, and I was really let down about both these jobs, that I didn't get either one of these jobs. And I remember just giving it to God and saying, thank you for all that you've already given me. Those things aren't for me. I'm fine. And a few weeks later, St. Benedict's calls me back, and they said that the lady that they hired quit because she didn't like it, and that they didn't think I was the right person for the job, but they didn't want to interview anybody else. I said, I'll take it, right? And I said, I'll take it. What's it pay? I don't care. I'll take it, because I wanted to be at St. Benedict's where they allowed drinking, and it was just a real deal homeless shelter at this point, where I would go down there just to hang out with guys that were drunk and talk to them and love on them. And so I got this job at St. Benedict's, and I was there for a few months, and the lady who was my boss, who was the director, she got mad at a volunteer and a board member, and she threw the keys on the counter and walked out, and I was the only other staff member, right? So the board came in, and they said, well, we're going to have to find somebody. I said, I'll take care of it until y'all find somebody. And I worked there 40 hours a week, and ORR 40 hours a week, and after about a month, they came in and they said, we found who we want. You're going to be the new director at St. Benedict's. So I'm less than 2 years sober, and I'm still in drug court, and the Catholic Church basically hires me and hands me the keys to St. Benedict's, and all the things, the opportunities that I didn't get, I remember not getting them, and God having a plan. And it was really, I don't have a lot of time to explain it all, but God, I could look back and see God working in every step, answering my prayers in every step of the way. I worked at St. Benedict's for 5 years, I think. I met my wife there, and I got married, and I had a daughter, and life was good. And then Roger starts calling, all right? Life was awesome, and then Roger starts calling. Y'all remember that? Roger said he had a dream that I'm going to come work for him at Friends of Sinners, and I was like, nah, I got the job I want. I'm not coming to Friends of Sinners. I love where I'm at. My dad, I didn't tell y'all about my dad, but I ain't got time to tell you that whole story, but my dad was at Friends of Sinners at this point, and my dad got sober and gave his life to Jesus, and he changed his life. So I fell in love with Friends of Sinners through my dad being there. But anyways, I told Roger no. A few months go by, and Roger calls me again. He says, I had the dream again that you're going to come work for me at Friends of Sinners. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And so I said no again. He said, just pray about it. Let me tell you, if anybody tells you pray about it, that just means you're going to do it. They're just going to give you a few weeks to say yes, right? That's what it means, I swear. But a few weeks later, I saw him at this event, and he was like, you going to come work for me? And I was like, no, I don't want a job. I don't want you to pay me, but I'm going to give you every Tuesday night. So from 2 to 10 on Tuesdays, I'm going to go to Friends of Sinners, and I'm going to volunteer. I'm gonna help take the guys to Walmart, and I'm gonna help Julius, I'm gonna help Big Jew with whatever he needs, and you can have every Tuesday from me. And that's what I did for like a year. And in this year that I was doing that, circumstances for Roger changed, and Roger resigned from Friends of Sinners. And when that happened, me and Roger basically were both at the same time both convinced that God had orchestrated this in a way that I was already there and had been there, and it was time for me to leave St. Benedict's and go to Friends of Sinners. So that's what I did. I applied for the job, and Roger recommended me for the job, and I got the job, and I started there in 2015. It's been a long time. My life basically changed overnight. I went from being single and at every meeting and church event that I could go to every night, doing whatever I want, to being married, having a kid, plus 3 stepkids, plus a new job, and plus my wife starting a new job at the radio. And my life just completely changed overnight. And now it's like, for whatever reason, the stress, the anxiety of all those changes, like I started getting sick again like I did when I was a kid. And from 2016 until 2018, I basically got sick every morning. I would wake up. I didn't feel anxious, but I would wake up and I would throw up. And until I threw up, after I threw up, the rest of my day would be fine. But what happened is it started, I guess if you throw up every day, the acid starts to eat your esophagus and can cause real health problems. So they did all these tests. They couldn't find anything wrong with me. Basically, after 20 different tests and scopes and procedures, they said that I have something called cichlid vomiting syndrome, which is just, it's like a mental health condition. Only 10 people in the United States have it. It's basically, I can't explain it all to you, but it's basically I throw up and I feel better. So finally, after about 2 years of that, my doctors were able to help me get it figured out, and I've moved on from that. But lots of things have happened in the past 7 years at Friends of Sinners that I could share with you that are awesome. But the last thing I want to share with you, my bad all the time because I could go for. The last thing I want to share with you is really simple. A lot of times, a church or different churches ask me to come share my testimony, and I do it this way. Romans 8 is basically my testimony, and I'll show you how. It's Romans 8:11. It's the same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead lives in me, right? And I promise you that there's nothing that I did to get where I'm at or gain what I've gained. It was all Jesus, right? People, some of my best friends that are still out in addiction have asked me, like begged me, tell me what to do. Tell me how to get to where you're at. And I'm like, Jesus gives you a new heart or it don't work. Period. I know that sounds a little harsh, but it's the truth. Romans 8:11, the same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead lives in me, and that's all I got. No, I'm not done. The next part is Romans 8:28, right? He makes all things work together for the good, right? So my whole life, the story that I've shared with you, going to jail, being homeless, getting divorced, all of these things that happen that are bad, that I thought were the worst things in the world, actually were the greatest gifts that I've ever gotten from Jesus, from God, from anywhere. Without those things, I wouldn't have cried out to Jesus, right? Without those things, I wouldn't have surrendered. Without those things, I wouldn't have begged God in a sincere way like I never have in my life, right? So Romans 8:28. So it's 8:11, 8:28, and the last one is Romans 8:37. And it says, we are more than conquerors. And it's my favorite part, is because we are more than conquerors because I didn't just get sober. Right? God didn't just allow me to conquer my drug addiction. God made me way more than that. Way more than that. He changed so much, but he changed my heart in a way that I'm not attracted to sin anymore. He made me a husband. He made me a father. He made me a leader. He made me a brother. He gave me a career. He made me a son. He made me all these things that I could be proud of, that other people, that my family could be proud of, right? So 8:37 is that, and I would encourage you that sobriety is just a piece of what God wants to do in your life. And it's the piece that he needs to do first so that he can make you so much more than you ever dreamed of. And when I say so much more, I'm not talking about things. I'm not talking about things or money or those things. I'm talking about so much more in that the ideas, the characteristics, the values, the principles of God are part of who you are, things that you never dreamed of or imagined that you could be, or even believe that you could be. Like, makes you more than conquerors. That's all I got.
All right, so real quick, Joe's story is, man, I'm loud too, man. Like, Joe was like, anyways, Joe's story is always a great reminder to me that I don't know everything, right? So, like, I met him in jail, and here's Joe when I met him. And if that doesn't explain why I had to tell him, look, you ain't ready, bro. Right? Like, you ain't ready. So, yeah, lock neck monster. So, anyways, but that was that could have been the reason. But anyways, we love Joe, and we're thankful for Joe. And God proved me wrong because he didn't come to Friends of Sinners. He ended up being the executive director of Friends of Sinners. So that's cool. So anyways, I'm going to pray, and we will get out of here. Let's pray. Father, we give thanks for this day. We give thanks for Joe and his testimony. And because of his testimony, Lord, there'll be many more to testify to the same things, that you are the solution to all of our problems, that we need you, and that when we surrender to you, you change our heart and you change our lives, and you lead us down a different path. So, Father, reveal yourself to who needs to know you in a very personal, intimate way. Where I pray that happens. We love you and we thank you. It's in Jesus' name. Amen.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the sermon. If you guys would like to stay connected to us and what we're doing, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel or you can like us on Facebook.
You can also visit our website at matthewstable.com. A cool feature on our website is we have a prayer wall. You can place your prayer on there and someone will be praying for you. To partner with us financially, you can text the number 73256 with Matthew's Table with no space in between. Because of your giving, we can be a missional church that reaches the lost and goes hits the streets for Jesus. Thank you.